Hi, this is Jill from Gilbert's Bits of Bytes, and I'm here to show you the latest action that I've released, and it's a paper flower action. And you're probably scratching your head if you're a regular action customer of mine, because this is actually the original one, was the very first action I ever wrote. So I learned a lot since then. And anyway, we'll go on with it. I had a customer email me and ask me where my action was. And I explained to her, I said, I retired it years ago. And she said, well, why can't you put it back in the store? Well, I went and looked at it, trying to see, could I do it? And like I did with all my other actions, I tested it and it didn't work in all the newer versions. Mainly because Photoshop or Adobe, let's say, got the wise idea that when you opened a PNG file before, the layer was layer 0, and they changed it to where now it's layer 1. So, and that's just one of the few things that I ran into. So what I did is I decided, I'm going to rewrite it. And I did. As you can see here, it looks very different. Before it was just basically one action. And I've done it to where you can make a flower, and I have the thing where you can make a copy of your original flower to make a second layer on that flower, and basically I just kind of return it and size it down. Excuse me. But I had a lot of people ask me, why can't I want to use a separate one. Well, how they dealt with that was they ran the paper flower action again and sized it and did all that themselves. I decided to save you some time, and I made this flower. Anyway, let's get started here. We want to start with the first flower. And if you're a user of my older action, I suggest you read all these dialogues that come up because things are different. And I know some of my testers didn't do it, and including me. And you get a mess if you don't do it right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to open one of the start files. And these are, the flowers. And in the original version, I just had, these are the 3 original ones that I had with the action. Then I created some more start files, 2 more packs of 6. And I just went ahead and I've included all of them in with this action. Why not? 15 flowers to play with. Okay, so now I'm going to open it. Now, we're going to go and we're going to find some paper to put on here. Now, you're going to want to make sure that the paper is centered on the canvas because sometimes it just doesn't do it. Anyway, and you want to use a pattern that's repeating. And if you don't have a repeating pattern, you can usually get away with it, but if it looks really ugly, I've got these 2 helper applications to kind of take care of that issue. So let's go down. I don't know what I'm going to, oh, that's kind of neat. Okay, so you can double click, you can hit return, you can hit the check mark, whatever. Okay, now, do you want to make some adjustments? Yeah, I kind of want to make some adjustments here because you can see there's just too much contrast going on with this particular flower. So I'm going to tell it to stop. And then the blending mode is overlay, and that isn't always the best. Actually, one of the best ones I think is the hard light. And it's not a big difference, but it looks better. Okay, so you want to go back and continue running this because what you need to do is merge these 2 layers together. Okay, that's it. Now, if you're happy with what you have, you can just go ahead and save it out as a PNG, or you can run, best thing is you run the finished flower action. But I want to add some more. Now, one of the things I like to add is buttons or bling or something to the center, and that's what this add center is. And continue. So I'm digging into my retired stuff. Okay. So as you can see, that's really kind of too large, and I also want to constrain the proportions. We want it to go down. So you can either hit the check mark, hit return, or double click in there, and there you go. It even shades it and does all the pretty stuff for you. And that's it. If you want to save it out now, Sure, I tell you again, use the finish flower action. Now, in the old action or the original action, let's say, I set it up to where you could have a second layer. And the way I did that was by copying the first layer. And that's what this is. This is does a copy of your first flower, duplicates it, scales it down, twists it a little bit, and there you go. So let's run it. Don't worry about where you are on your layers here. I help you with that. There. So there you go. There's the second one. Then what you do, the finish flower action, what it will do is it trims all this excess area of your canvas and then flattens and saves it out. So a lot of people though wanted to use a different flower or start file. And what they did to to kind of do it is they would run the action again and bring it in and do all that stuff. So at the prodding of Steph, I did it for her. So now that's part of the action. So I just got rid of that one I made, and I'm going to do one here. Now you're going to have to do like you did with the first one. You're going to have to continue and go on to the start files and pick yourself a start file that you want to use. Let's pick that. Now don't worry about its size right now. Just accept it. Okay, so now you want to go and navigate to the paper file you want to use. Ooh, there's another one. And like I did on the first one, see, I default all of these to overlay blend mode. I hit the hard light to see if that's the way I want it, but it's too much of a contrast really for the first one. So let's do an overlay. Ugh, I still don't like that. Soft light. You can sit here and play with these all you really want to. Let's do overlay. And I'm going to actually adjust the opacity just a tiny bit. Okay, so I've done my playing there. Now you want to run this and finish it, because what it will do now is merge these two flowers. That's it. We're done. We did it two different flowers, two different layers, as you can see. So what you want to do now is do the finished flower. Now you can go ahead and make another flower, but it'll only go as small as what this one is here on the second layer, but you can size it yourself, and it's still easy because you don't have to go and set up a whole new file to run this thing. So right now I'm ready. I'm going to save this out, continue, and geez, this thing is kind of big. So I'm just going to use the default thing and go to my desktop and save it. And there we go. And as you can see, there it is. Isn't that pretty? Let me show you what the helper things do. Okay. Let me find a paper that's. Oh, well, let's see what it does. Okay, now what you want to do is navigate to your paper. I have to read these because I was stuck in the old way of doing it. Let's find some other paper that's really obviously not a repeating one. No, there we go. See? Now you can, it'll prompt you to save it. And what I do basically is, this is based on a tutorial I did when I first did the paper flower action. And what I do is I take the paper that's on here, duplicate it. I also give it its own layer. And I move the first paper to where it's centered on this edge. I move the second paper where it's centered on this edge, and then I merge it. So it's real simple. Maybe you like how it looks when it's like mirror images, but it's really not something that is a tool for you for paper making. But it is a way that now you can run your action and you won't have a seam in your flower. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let me go and run this again. This is getting long. I don't think I've ever done any of this, and I don't have much of a voice left. Okay. I'm going to continue over here and go. So you see, it's not a repeating pattern. Okay, so what I want to do is, actually it's not as obvious in this one. Oh well, it doesn't help. What will happen is you can see a seam, and it just doesn't look very good. By running that helper app, it kind of alleviates that issue. But I can't show you because it didn't work that way. Anyway, that's it. If you have questions, in the forum I have a thread where you can ask questions, share your flowers. I'd love to see what you come up with. And that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.